the next caller it appears to be our final caller. So we're going to bring them up now. That's Shrek Eyes. You're on the air. We can hear you. And go ahead and just share your question with us, and we'll jump right into it.
Hello. Okay, so is money property?
Could be, could not be.
In what sense could it be, and in what sense could it not be?
So it could be money. It could be property if gold is money, for instance, if it's some commodity like that. It could not be property if it's something like Bitcoin, because I don't think Bitcoin can be property.
What if it's something like a dollar?
You can own a dollar bill, certainly.
Can you own a dollar though?
The dollar doesn't actually refer to anything. That's the problem with fiat money. Like, it's a receipt with no referent. You can own the bill. You can definitely own the bill, but you can't own the referent because there is no referent any longer.
What if the money is like some sort of IOU to gold? IOU.
So I'm not sure what it means to own an IOU. IOU means I owe some particular person some particular property. I don't know that the IOU is itself property.
Yeah. So if money is supposed to be the medium of exchange, right? So then you can't own. And if the medium of exchange is some sort of IOU to some property, then can money not be owned, right? You agree?
So money is just, so there is a distinction between money and money certificates. So under, for instance, a gold standard, I would have a note for, £5 sterling. That means £5 of sterling silver in some vault, right? That is, the note itself is not the money. That's just a certificate saying that I own this money in the vault. That's all it is. That's what a bank note is. It's a note that you own that money. So with something like Bitcoin, there isn't this same relationship going on there, of course.
Okay, but an IOU can be conditional, right? You can have an IOU which says in which conditions you can withdraw it, right?
So that would be a contract, not the same as a banknote. A banknote is just, this is my money. I can come and retrieve it.
Well, is it though? Most an IOU is a type of contract.
Not really, because what is being transferred title to?
Oh, yeah, well, contracts are about title transfers. Yeah.
Right. I don't think there is a title transfer in the case of having a certificate showing that this is my car in this garage. Right. I take a ticket out showing that this is my car. Right. Versus I take a ticket out showing that this is my money in the vault. Like, I don't think there's a transfer of title to property. I don't think the bank owns the money that's in there. They're just keeping it for somebody else. And this ticket, this money certificate, is proof that you own that money in the vault. That's all it is.
Okay, so theoretically, if I were to have a vault of gold somewhere and I were to emit IOUs, which are conditional, I mean, they're contracts, right? If you can take this paper, you can take this receipt, come over here and withdraw it for gold if I want to, under some circumstance, right?
If you own the gold, yes, you could have like some sort of mechanism like that.
Yeah, I own the gold, right? The bank, not the person with the receipt.
Yeah. You could set that up, but that's not a bank.
Okay, it's not a bank. It's a demand deposit institution. Okay.
Sure.
So I give out these titles, right? These IOUs, conditional IOUs, which are contracts, and these people start, giving you start using the IOU itself as a medium of exchange. Yeah.
Okay.
So what are these people actually trading? Are they trading the IOUs or the gold in my vault?
Mostly they'll be trading the IOUs there.
Well, when I pay someone to give me, I don't know, a shoe, I'm actually giving them an IOU in this.
No, you're not.
In this scenario, you are.
In this scenario, sure.
Okay, yeah, in this scenario. So is there a title transfer?
It would be over the specific certificate, yes.
Civic certificate?
Yeah, the specific certificate. You could trade that to somebody else because that is an actual physical piece of paper.
And if the IOU itself is conditional, that is, you don't actually own the gold inside the vault. You only have a claim on it, which is conditional upon some condition. And then people aren't trading the gold itself, right? They're not.
Okay.
So how is fractional reserve banking fraud?
Because that's not what a bank is. A bank means I'm storing my money in some institution, and I can come into that institution to get my money back at any point. That's what a bank is. That's what a bank means. Ask 1,000 people on the street whether they own the money in their bank account, and 1,000 of them will say yes, unless you run into a radical free banker along the way. Every other person is going to say, yes, I own that money. That's how you know fraud's going on.
Well, that's because people think money is in people, when they think in money, they're not thinking in some gold in a bank somewhere. They're thinking in a dollar bill, right? Or not even a dollar bill, just some number on their phone.
They're thinking in money. They think they own the money in their bank account.
Yeah, but in today's world, when we say money, we just mean like a claim in the bank. We don't
Wait, hold
actually
on.
mean that gold.
Is that what people generally think?
Well, yeah. Because money,
So
when was the last time money actually
Do you
represented
think that
gold?
if
or
you were to
anything?
ask 1,000 people on the street, do you own the money in your bank vault? Like, do you own the money? If you go to your bank account, if you go to that ATM over there and it shows the amount of money in your bank account, do you think you own that money? Do you think majority of them even
Well,
would
the
say that,
majority.
no, the bank owns that money?
Well, you're like doing
Is that your claim?
you're like doing what social contract people do. Like, oh yeah, do you own your house? Like, obviously you own your house, but it's actually
would you be
pretty
willing
much
to answer the
occupied by the
question?
state. Sorry, what?
Would you be willing to answer his question?
What was his question again?
So if you were to ask 1,000 people on the street whether they own the money in their bank account, what do you think that the majority answer would be?
Well, they'd say no. Yes, they do own the money in the bank. But if you explain to them what ownership under libertarian law means, they would say no. They
So you
wouldn't
think
say yes.
that the majority of people, if I were to explain to them that ownership means that they have the right to control that money, that they would say, no, I don't have the right to control that money. You think the majority would say that?
Well, I mean, sure, if you dumb down libertarianism like that, yeah, they would.
That's not dumbing down. That's just what it means.
Well, if you also explain how a fucking bank works, then no, they wouldn't say yes.
So let's just try to. I think it'll be beneficial for us to stick to something a little bit more concrete than speculating about what people believe. And there's a little bit of that that's sort of built into the question, but we're going to try to avoid it for as great of amount of time as possible. So there's a couple of concepts I want to introduce really quickly. Just I think they'll be facilitating. There are two types of contracts generally performed at a bank, historically speaking. One of those is a demand deposit, which is not necessarily performed with exclusively money. You can do it with paintings, you can do it with all kinds of things. And the purpose of a demand deposit is, and I'm oversimplifying, Zulu can give this in a more rigorous contractual form. But the basic premise of a demand deposit is I'm giving you this, you're holding it for me. It continues to be mine the entire time it's yours. And it continues to be mine the entire time that it's in your possession under your care. And because it's mine, I can come retrieve it at any time that I wish. And I'm going to pay you for watching over my things. Now, alternatively, there's another type of thing called a time deposit. And a time deposit is a different type of arrangement altogether. In a time deposit, you are saying, I'm giving you ownership of this. And this, in this case, it's essentially always money. It's conceivable that you could have one that's not money, but I think we'll just keep it simple for now. So in a time deposit, you're saying, here is my money. I'm giving you ownership of it. And this is part of a contract. The contract is I'm giving you one coin and it's yours now. And in return, the aleatory conditions, I think Zulu would call it, is in a year's time, I want 2 coins back. Now those are different types of contracts. So what the criticism of fractional reserve banking is that when you deposit money into the bank, they give you the impression that it's a demand deposit because you can go into your computer and you can be like, oh, how much money do I have? It's here, and I can just access it whenever I want. But the fact is that that money's actually a time deposit in a sense because it's been distributed. It's been spent, it's been invested, it's not in the possession of the bank any longer. And the purpose of the fractional reserve is so that there's some amount of circulation of withdrawals and deposits. And as long as the reserve is sufficient to cover that volume, then the what we are calling a deception is never discovered. But the fact that people are under the impression that they're engaged in a demand deposit, and the fact that they think that is indicated by the fact that they say that they own the money in the bank. That doesn't make sense unless you're in a demand deposit. But the way that the money's being used is unambiguously a time deposit. It's been spent and invested.
And
These two things can't be reconciled.
On that,
I want
money
to
in
just
your
quickly add on to this. I've got some banknotes here, and I just pulled them out of my pocket. And it says, Bank of Scotland PLC promises to pay the bearer on demand £20 sterling at its registered office, Edinburgh. That is written on my banknote right here. So they're saying that this is a demand deposit, that I own £20 sterling. Guess where that comes from? It means £20 of silver, sterling silver, in their vault, that they will give that back to me at demand in their office in Edinburgh. And guess what would happen if I went there and demanded the silver? They would say, fuck off. Right? That's the fraud going on here.
nobody actually believes you can. Anyways, that's not the point. When you have
able to, because nobody believes in
you
them.
used to, yeah. That was fraudulent. That was totally fraudulent. You used to.
This is all fraud.
Okay, well, it
I'm
was.
glad you agree. Now, fractional reserve banking is fraud. I'm
glad
you agree.
The gold standard or silver standard is way prior to. It's way its removal was way after the start of fractional reserve banking.
So anyways, in other words, you're saying that Zulu has indicated a legitimate case of fraud, but the fraud that he's showing, that he's pointing to there, is a different fraud case than the case we're discussing about fractional reserve bank. This is some different type of fraud.
Yeah, it's a different type. Yeah. Well, when you see money in your bank, do you actually how do you get money in your bank?
You put
do you
money
actually
into the
deposit a bill in there? Or
yep, I do every week.
Okay, but
I often deposit cash.
Okay, so when you have money in your bank, do you own the money, or what is money? What is this money thing we're speaking of?
Yeah, so this is essentially, I think that where you're going with this is that money is fungible. So that does somewhat complicate the issue, but it doesn't significantly complicate the issue. So if I have something that's fungible, and what this means in a praxeological sense, and also I think just in a general sense, is that it doesn't matter to me whether or not I get the specific coin that I put in. Let's just talk about silver for the sake of keeping things simple. It doesn't matter to me as the actor if I get the same one. I consider two different coins of silver interchangeable. Now, this isn't, you could easily escape this through a appeal to subjectivity, because if lots of people have lucky coins. I mean, No Country for Old Men, right? Lucky quarter. I've been given coins. People who know that I'm interested in the stuff that we're talking about now give me silver as a gift all the time. And unfortunately for me, they tend to give me collectible silver. So I get like the anniversary of Vimy Ridge collectible silver coin or whatever. And now that's not interchangeable to me with other coins. But let's just say it wasn't even a commemorative coin. Let's say it was a silver coin that is in every sense physically indistinguishable from any other silver coin. Yet the fact that it was given to me by my father means that I don't see it the same as the other coins. Subjectively, it's no longer fungible. This fungibility is an entirely subjective concern. So because coins are fungible, then you're not transferring ownership in the sense that I'm, in the traditional sense, with like a demand deposit, I'm giving you this specific coin. I want this specific coin back. There's a sort of fungibility in that it can be any of the coins that are in storage. But that doesn't change the fact that everything, all of the specific functional elements of what we're talking about remain the same. So if you go to the bank and they give you a different coin, that is the coin that you own. But if you go there and you're in a contractual agreement with them, a demand deposit, to give you any of the coins that are fungible, and they can produce none, then that was fraud. And that doesn't change any of the functional components here.
So what I was going to get on is that money in your bank account isn't actually being redistributed. It's not really. Now, when you deposit a dollar bill, yeah, that's being redistributed, but not money in your bank. No, that's never being redistributed. What does it mean to redistribute a bank deposit? It's not. It just isn't. Money isn't. Money is a contractual obligation, but it's not on what, right? On what conditions? You can't just claim it's fraudulent without actually going into specifics.
Oh, I think we were pretty specific. Zulu, do you think we were pretty specific?
Yeah, I think we're a crystal there. We're a crystal in the sense that what is being redistributed is the actual referent of the money. The sterling silver that I've got the receipts for in my pocket, that is redistributed all around the place. I can't go back and claim that. There are multiple property titles to that sterling silver initially, and now there actually isn't any sterling silver.
Zulu, do you also believe like insurance is fraudulent?
No.
Like insurance?
I don't believe that's fraudulent, no.
Well, it's doing the same thing a bank does, really. You have all these conditional claims. Yeah, it is. You have all these conditional claims on a theoretical damage that can happen to your property, for example. Mm-hmm. But it never actually happens. So is there an actual contradiction in this situation?
Because insurance isn't claiming you own the money in the insurance company's vault. That has never been the claim. Whereas these fucking banknotes, again, I can bring out the fucking banknotes for you. They say the Bank of Scotland PLC promises to pay the bearer on demand £20 sterling at its registered office, Edinburgh. It says that on my fucking banknotes, man. It says that. It says that to me, and it's a lie. No insurance company I've ever given money to has ever said that I'm owning money in their vaults. No insurance company has ever said that.
Well again, you did this false thing. Do you actually believe like the state when they say you own something?
I'm sorry.
Are these guys?
How do you think this came about? The state came in and took over these banks. They gave shelter to these banks. That's how it came about. This used to be the case. It used to be the case that I could go out to the bank and collect my money. It used to be the case. And it got destroyed by fraud. Fraud backed by the state. That's how it happened. Like, are you just ignorant of this history?
I'm gonna give the point to Zulu on that one due to the lack of a answer.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I was mute. I didn't know I was muted.
No worries, go for it.
So when the you don't actually believe the state when they say you own a house or this guy owns this specific property, do you? No, right? So why would you?
Let me just clarify that. I don't believe that the state is going to respect that ownership, and I don't look to the state to determine who owns what, because we have a totally comprehensive theory of ownership in the first place. So we don't look to the state to find out who it is that owns something, and it doesn't change anything about our conception of ownership if we were to not believe that the state's going to respect ownership.
So in other words, it's possible for the state to identify some legitimate ownership. It's possible for them to do that, but that doesn't determine that it is ownership. Like in this case, they have identified that I own £20 sterling that they have taken from me. They have identified that.
1 second. He seems to be... I'm going to pull him back up again. He might have been having a little audio-video problem there. You back on with us?
I am? Okay. I'm walking outside right now, and it's raining now, so... But I can continue.
Absolutely. You're welcome to... I don't want you to feel pressure if you're getting rained on, but you're welcome to continue if that's what you'd like to do. Did you catch Zulu's most recent response to you?
No, I didn't.
Zulu, would you like to repeat yourself?
Sure. So it isn't the case that the state is determining That's the fountainhead of ownership that the state says I own 20 pounds of silver. That's not what determines that. But it doesn't mean that the state can't recognize actual legitimate ownership claims, like that I own 20 pounds of silver with this note. They indeed can recognize that, just as they could recognize that, you own your house. The state could recognize that fact, even if that isn't where it comes from.
Well, you just don't own the 25 pound sterling, is what I'm trying to say. In a proper bank. You're like, this is like me pointing to a state title and saying, oh yeah, I own this property here. I own this property under libertarian theory.
That's not the same thing. We're not Zulu is not asserting that he has derived his ownership from the wording on the banknote. He's derived his ownership elsewhere. He's saying the fact that their actions are contradicting their words is where the fraud is. Am I being accurate there, Zulu?
Yeah. This note lies to me. It says that I own 20 pounds of silver in their vaults in Edinburgh. That's what this note says. And it's a lie. This note is lying to me.
So you build this entire libertarian theory. And then you say, oh, well, they're not using own in the same way I use it.
No, that's not what we said.
Yeah, that is. Because actually you have a claim to this 25 pound sterling. You have a claim to it, a conditional claim to it.
By deception.
No, I'm really sorry. I think perhaps there was some confusion there. You issued some accusations about our position that I don't think are, I don't think that they correspond to what we're saying at all.
Well, no. So you actually have a claim to the 25 pound sterling. You don't actually own it. When you have a conditional claim to it.
I could go to the bank in Edinburgh and collect 20 pounds of silver.
Yeah, you can, because it's very rare that you can't. But it's conditional. It's totally conditional.
Do you think that I could buy 20 pounds of silver with 20 pound note? Is that your claim?
Yeah, you can buy it. Yeah.
You really think that I can afford 20 pounds of silver with just a 20 pound note at the bank? You think they would give me 20 pounds of silver for this? Is that your
no, you can't, right? But
because they don't actually have
that. Now. That's pretty much symbolic. It's symbolic.
They're lying.
It's a symbolic expression. It's not actually. They aren't. Nobody actually believes you can collect 25 pounds sterling. Back to your example, nobody believes that.
Everybody knows that they.
So again, I think you're totally missing our point, and I want to give you the opportunity to comprehend our point. So whether or not people believe this, I think like this sort of empirical appeal to like what a certain number of the population believes is totally irrelevant to what we're talking about. It's of no interest to me, and I'm sure that it's not of any interest to Zulu either. We're saying that a person is engaged in fraud when they promise something that they have no intention of delivering. And we're demonstrating that that's taking place. We're not deriving our concept of ownership from this process of this exchange. And we're not using a different, you said earlier, we were using the word own differently. We're not using a different, like multiple competing definitions of the concept of ownership. We're saying it is fraudulent to promise something that you have no intention, or knowing that you are aware, at the very least, you have no capacity to fulfill. We're demonstrating that that's taking place.
Oh, okay. To re-clarify on what I actually mean, in no way does fractional reserve banking, in no way is fractional reserve banking fraudulent under the right circumstance. So in this, obviously, the state is fraudulent, and the bank is pretty much part of the state at this point. It's not really a private institution these days.
Let me hit you with a hypothetical. It's a two-parter, really quickly. Okay, so if I go to you or you go to me, I don't care which, and I say, okay, here I'll hold your dollar for you, but I know, even though I'm going to hold your dollar for it, that at any time that you come to redeem it, there's only a 10% chance that I'm going to be able to give you the dollar. But unless it ever actually takes place that I can't give you the dollar back, then there's no fraud. And I'm just saying that I'm understanding you correctly. That's what you're saying about the banking system.
Wait, you have a deposit with a 10% chance of. Could you explain again?
It's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. So basically, here I'm gonna try to maybe explain it a different way. I don't want us to get stuck in the weeds on the hypothetical, where maybe the composition of the hypothetical is an error on my part, not clear. If you go to the bank, right, and you make a deposit. Now we agreed earlier that the fractional reserve is meant to cover some sort of what does Keynes call it? It's like the volume of circulation or the velocity of money, right? Like, so there's some sort of quantity of circulation, and the fractional reserve has to cover that. Okay, so what if the bank makes a mistake and they have just a little tiny bit too few money available? So you go in and you make your first deposit. You say, I'm giving you $100, and then immediately get a phone call, and it's like, oh, there's a really great business opportunity. It costs $100. You say, oh shoot, I changed my mind. I want my $100 back. And they say, sorry, it's gone. The $100 is gone. Earlier you said that this wouldn't. There's no redistribution happening. You said so. They didn't redistribute my money. So where, like, there's no fraud here, and the money didn't go anywhere. Like, that's what maybe I'm trying to understand.
Well, it depends on the contract that the bank operates in.
If
they're
the bank
saying
told me, if the bank told me that I would be able to access my money,
under what conditions?
what do you mean under what conditions? What conditions are the banks currently telling us that limit our access to the money?
Well, for one, there's insurance on your deposits most of the time. I don't know where you are, but there is an insurance on your deposit for starters. So it's not like this money is a contract, right? Well, that's the problem here. When you see $2,000 in your bank account, you don't actually have $2,000 physically. You have a contract. Now you use
What would it mean to have $2,000 physically?
$2,000 of. Wait, do you want me to actually answer, like in the real world?
Yeah. What does $2,000 refer to?
It refers to $2,000 of a claim on a deposit of the Central Bank of America. In the case of the United States.
What? What did you deposit?
Deposit of nothing. I mean, you deposit into the
So
Central Bank.
$2,000 versus nothing.
Sorry, what?
So $2,000 first nothing. It's not $2,000 of anything.
It refers to a contractual claim by the commercial bank to give you a $2,000 banknote.
$2,000 of what?
It's of nothing. It's of itself.
Nothing. So
it's an
don't
IOU
have
to
be any
itself.
money.
Yeah.
So I could turn off the bank and they just go, "Nah, we don't want to give you any money."
Yeah, correct. Money isn't scarce. Isn't scarce at all.
So
It's
they
a
could just
contract.
say no, we're not giving you any money. We just decided you're not going to have any money any longer. You think that would be
Well,
perfectly legitimate?
Presumably, your deposit has a contract, right? A policy
Contract referring to what? Because contracts are contracts about property.
referring
About
to
what
withdraw.
property?
So, a property about an actual paper note, right?
No.
By the
What is the
central bank.
specific property?
Which one? There's like two claims we're speaking about here.
So you're saying that that you have a deposit, that it refers to some property, some actual property right going on here. You can claim some actual
A deposit isn't
Hold
a
on.
property, right?
You can claim some property. You might not get it, but you can claim it at the time if they have it. But what is the specific property that you can claim? And now you're saying nothing. So it's all just fiat.
No. I'm not saying nothing. No.
You literally did say that.
Well, the claim on the commercial bank is different to the claim on the central bank.
So what is the claim on the what am I claiming from the central bank?
Itself. You're claiming
I'm claiming the entire central bank. When I go to the central bank and ask for my $20, I'm claiming.
Well, you can't have a deposit at the central bank. You can't have that. You're not allowed to.
What am I claiming from the central bank?
You're claiming itself. When you have a deposit in the central bank.
I am claiming the central bank.
No, you're claiming when you have a $10 claim, which means a $10 deposit in the central bank. You can't you withdraw it. You're getting $10. That's what it is.
Of what?
$10 of itself. I just said so. A dollar itself is a claim of the central bank. Yeah, exactly.
What does that mean?
It's how dollars are like pieces of paper. No, it's not really, because you have a dollar, right? You have a bunch of symbols on it, which says it's like individual. The symbols on the dollar.
So I'm claiming the symbols on the dollar.
No, you're not. You're just claiming okay, you're using two words of claim here. I can have a claim on a property, right? And I can have property. My property. Let's say I have $10 like in my hand right now. I have this doesn't matter. $10. $10 is $10.
$10 or nothing. What about in the UK? It says I have 20 pounds of silver.
Nobody thinks
am I
a dollar
claiming?
is like a unit of measurement.
Do you
Nobody thinks
understand?
that.
The
So I
central
I
bank
want to jump in here to
does.
say, do you
That's what it
understand?
initially was.
Do you understand that
Initially, but nobody says that anymore. Nobody believes
Because
that.
they defrauded everyone.
the functional, like what's
It's
functional
different.
in the proposition is
We're talking about fractional reserve banking, not
Hold
about
on.
fiat.
hold on. What's functionally relevant in a proposition, the kinds of propositions we're talking about, is the parity between the promise and the delivery, right? So you agreed with me earlier that it wasn't relevant, but you've invoked it again. Nobody believes this. We agreed that that's not relevant, and we're telling you now more assertively that it isn't relevant. It doesn't matter that who
So
believes it or
your
doesn't.
claim, your fraudulent
you-
claim,
If
refers
you
to
make
the actual
hold
dollar.
on now, I'm gonna have to. Please don't make me. You have to. So we're saying a promise is not being fulfilled. That's the functional thing. To say, well, nobody believes the promise. Well, we're telling you that we do, right? But it doesn't even matter, right? Like, if you make a promise to nobody in particular, if you just say it, you whisper it where nobody hears it, that's not making a promise. We're talking about something specific here. We're talking about an arrangement. So if we could just avoid repeating the phrase "nobody believes that," because we already agreed it's
Okay.
irrelevant, and we
So
could deal with.
There's two different claims of fraudulence. That fractional reserve banking is fraudulent, and that fiat is fraudulent. So
Yeah, so let's stick to fractional reserve banking then, because that's what we reserve.
Yeah, I
Lulu, can I
admit
jump
a
in here for
dollar
second?
is
I don't want to
a
derail
unit
you.
of measurement of weight of gold or silver or whatever it was. Let's forget about that. That's a different type of fraudulence
Sure,
to
sure.
fractional
Okay.
reserve banking.
Zulu, do you mind if I jump in here? I don't want to derail you.
Yeah, go on.
Let's just do this, Shrek guys. I want to see if where we have the breakdown here, right? So if you do a demand deposit, right, and I'm not asserting that a demand deposit is valid, I'm deriving it from the kinds of interactions we can have, the kind of arrangements we can reach. Okay, so it's possible for something to be in your possession that you don't own. You agree with me?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you leave something with somebody under an arrangement, so say I'm going to leave this for you're going to take care of this for me. You're the steward of it. It's for safekeeping, whatever, and I'm going to pay you over time for performing this service. I need you to watch over my stuff for me. Okay, this is a specific type of arrangement, and in the specific type of arrangement, it's implied that you own the thing because at any time you can come retrieve it. It's yours. So
at any time, because
if the person who is the steward denies you access to retrieve the demand deposit, then they're separating you from your ownership, right? So you don't own it anymore.
Yeah, they're stealing it. Yeah.
Right, they're stealing it. Exactly. You own this thing that they're keeping from you. And therefore, like in your words, they're stealing it. Okay. Now, this is perhaps more relative to modern finance, but another thing you can do is a contract. So I could say, hey, Zulu, I trust your financial acumen, and I would like to. I have this money, this quantity of money. It could be silver, it could be fiat. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to say, I am. You're the investor. I'm giving it to you to invest as you see fit. And then I'm going to expect a return in the future. So I'm transferring ownership of you. I'm transferring ownership to you as part of a contract that in the future I'm going to get more money back. And this actually, there has to be an exchange here or of ownership, or it's not possible because I can't make sense of a contract with Zulu where I say, hey Zulu, I want you to invest my money or use it productively, invest it in a stock, invest it in capital goods, whatever. But at any time, I am going to come retrieve this from you so that you have absolutely no means whatsoever of guaranteeing that you're going to be profitable on it. But also, there can't be this time aspect of a contract to even make sense. You can't. I'm not lending this to you for a year, but also I can claim it whenever I want. Because if I can claim it for whenever I want, then the year part doesn't make any sense. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Because I can claim it before that. I can also claim it after that. The year thing doesn't refer to anything anymore. So if there's a time aspect here, it must imply a transfer of ownership. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're saying is these two things are mutually exclusive with each other. They're mutually exclusive with each other because one's an arrangement in which the depositor is the owner of the thing, And the other is an arrangement where the depositor is not the owner of the thing. And like you said to me earlier, just a few minutes ago, that if you're the owner of something and somebody is keeping it from you, even if it's the person you hired to protect it for you, they're stealing it. This was what we agreed to. So we're saying here's an example of an arrangement that takes place in real life where you deposit something, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter, like Suli was talking about the promise that there's going to be a silver coin. It doesn't matter if it's a fiat currency or just a money substitute where technically it's a silver coin down the road, but we're just changing receipts. All of that's irrelevant to what I'm saying. Whatever it is, it's X. It's just floating out there. It's X. You own it. You deposited it, and you went in to retrieve it, and you're not able to retrieve it. Now, what did you call it when that happens?
It's stealing, but you're making a false dichotomy.
Is that so? Good. Please explain.
So can you think of let's say I have a claim on some institution. Let's call it the central bank, right? It's a claim. Okay.
A claim. I don't know what that means.
Well, it means a contract where if I go over there and I ask for, I don't know, I ask for something, they'll give me something.
No, I object fully.
Under some condition.
I'll tell you why. I object.
Under some condition.
I'm going to tell you why I object.
Well, I haven't completed the hypothetical yet. And let's say with this claim.
Watch this.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, I don't know. The reason I asked you this question, what do you mean by this sort of like this promise? Are you telling me that I own something and they're the steward of this thing that I own? Is that what you're telling me?
Could you repeat your question?
Yes. So you said, like, you introduced this new concept, and it was, it started with a C. What was it?
Contract?
Yeah, no,
claim?
not a contract. They had like
claim?
a claim. That's exactly the word I'm looking for. So you said I have a claim to something. Does that mean that this something, again, I don't care if it's fiat or a money substitute or whatever, do I own that? When you say claim, are you saying I own that thing?
No.
So I don't own this. I have a claim to something I don't own.
Yeah.
So what can you tell me just really quickly? What does it mean to claim something you don't own?
Well, for example, imagine you have insurance, right? Fire insurance,
Mm-hmm.
and for some reason, your house burnt down. So you now officially have a claim on the insurance company to give you something because of a contract. That's what a claim is.
But you own that money.
No, not really, because there's various.
Because you don't. Hold on. You don't.
There's
have
several
a claim.
clauses inside.
Hold on. You don't own the money, and you don't have a claim until the fire happens. The fire takes place pursuant to the conditions in the contract, and now you have a claim.
Pursuant. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem.
But
okay.
The contract,
I'm saying claim is prior to the actual clause.
Hold on. The contract specifies that under certain conditions, you become the owner of the money. That's what the contract does. The contract's conditions were met. You became the owner of the money.
No, not necessarily. There's still a review occurring under the clause of the contract.
You're completely confused about something really important here. The review is not part of the objective truth of the contract. The review is just a limitation that human beings have, that they have to make sure that, like, forensically, that the fire was legitimate and everything like that. But whether or not the fire was an accident or was human caused is already an objectively true thing out there. It's just a fact that human beings have to, we have to go through the process of figuring that out. But if you have a contract that if your house accidentally burns down, you become the owner of the money, you immediately become the owner of the money, regardless of if the insurance company has to do a forensic investigation. And the reason, I'll give you a reason to believe this right away. If you kill somebody, you're guilty of murder prior to the investigators doing it. You've killed them.
Yeah, correct. But the problem here is that you're defining claim in a very specific way. I'm saying a claim, you have a claim whenever.
Oh man, what a terrible time to lose him. Here, we'll just give him a second.
I will be clear that Calazar was defining claim in the way that he was defining it, which is like, oh, it's like a claim to insurance agency.
I assume he's coming back. He mentioned earlier, everybody, that he's out for a walk and he's having a little bit of technical difficulty. No, I would love to fill this time and talk about this with everybody. I worry that I'd be a little bit disrespectful if I did that. But on the other hand, he has to reconnect first. So I think I don't know. Let's go through this. Zulu, you were just saying what I really wanted to say, and I was being kind of shy about it. I didn't want to be rude, but I felt that I let him tell me what the claim meant. I didn't feel that I was introducing a proprietary definition, but was I mistaken?
Yeah, no, you were taking his idea of what a claim was. It's a claim to some money, like when you got an insurance claim, right? That is a claim to some particular property there, right? So, like, the point is, well, that if money is just a contract, it's just a contract disconnected from anything. Well, what is the contract about? What are you claiming from the bank when you go and make that claim? When you're claiming from an insurance agency, you're claiming some money. Okay. What am I claiming from the bank? When you go there from some fractional reserve bank, what happens when you go and make that claim? What is the claim referring to? Right? I feel like we're being perfectly crystal here.
Sweet. Well, luckily our guest is back, and I was hoping that you would be. I didn't want to lose the call there. So, Shrek, if you want a reminder where we were, or are you good to go from there?
Yeah, a reminder.
Okay. The last thing that I remember you saying was that I introduced some sort of proprietary definition of claim, and what I would counter to that is that I'm not introducing anything about a proprietary definition of claim. I'm just letting you tell me what a claim is. So I'm kind of confused about that.
Yeah, so a claim is let's say you have a contract with various clauses, right? So it's saying like you get $10, right? If you
Well, if it's easier for you, we don't have to get it. We don't have to imagine
of
specific
course,
conditions.
yeah.
There's conditions. So there's a contract.
Yeah, there's
and if
conditions. Yeah,
conditions are met, you become the owner of whatever.
correct. And this contract is actually sort of a claim. It's a type of claim.
Okay, so do you own the money before the conditions are met?
No, you don't own something you claim. No.
No. So the question is, we have this is what you said. Now, I'm not putting any words in your mouth, at least not on purpose. There is a contract, and there are conditions. And when the conditions are met, you become the owner of money.
Yeah.
And you don't own the money prior to the conditions being met.
Yeah, you don't own it. No.
You don't own the money prior to the conditions, and you do after the conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we solved the problem. I don't know if I'm missing something here.
Yeah, but the word claim refers to the actual prior title ownership transfer.
So you're saying a claim refers to a contract where if certain conditions are met, you become the owner of something.
Yeah.
Cool. I agree. Like, we can use the word claim that way, but the implications don't change one iota about how contracts work and what the implications are of contracts having conditions.
They do a lot.
It doesn't change what point in the process you become the owner of something, and it doesn't change the fact that fraud is happening when the conditions are met and you're not reimbursed with what was stipulated by the contract.
So you're assuming there's a certain a condition on this. You're assuming there's no condition basically on a deposit when there obviously is. There's various levels of insurance on a deposit, and a deposit is a deposit of what? It's a deposit on a deposit. It's a claim to a deposit to a deposit.
It doesn't matter what it's a deposit of.
It is, because deposits are actually claims, right? And these claims
let's just be clear in our language, right? Let's take the word claim out of here and replace the word with the definition you gave us. Deposits are contracts which have conditions, and you become the owner of the money when the conditions are met.
Yeah,
that's okay. That's how you're using it. So we spoke earlier. You agreed with me that you fully understand what a demand deposit is.
Yeah, but I disagreed that it's no, I disagreed that your formulation of it even happens realistically.
So banks do not tell anybody. So if I'm understanding you correctly, banks do not say, that you can retrieve your money whenever you want.
Well, they claim
Well,
you
and
can.
again, I don't care if it's silver or I don't care if it's literally like corn chips. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever it is, you're saying banks do not give their depositors the impression that they can retrieve what has been deposited whenever they want. They don't
Well,
own.
the thing is they can, but there's various conditions which they can't.
So is it fair for me then, and I want to hear, like, Zulu's maybe going to have the opportunity to bring something to my attention that I'm overlooking here. But is this really not like, there's no philosophy here, there's no theory at all. All that this conversation really is that we're saying, hey, this guy's going around lying to people. And you're saying, no, what he's saying isn't a lie. So it's just a different.
What you're saying is fractional reserve banking is fraudulent. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
And
I
I
was
can give you
oversimplifying it somewhat there.
And I can give you an example of where FRB is not fraudulent. I have I emit contracts to certain gold, right? So a gold and to gold I own. And in this contract it says you can withdraw your gold at any point, unless XXXX, right?
Like,
Okay,
if the branch is closed.
Right. So I think you can have a contract like that, but it means that the bank owns the money, which is just simply not what a bank does. Right.
That's what a bank does.
If
It's exactly what a bank does.
money is a contract, that contract has to refer to something, right? Which is why fiat money doesn't make sense, right? It has to refer to something.
I don't really care about fiat money
sterling,
right now.
silver, right? That's what it has to refer to. So it has to refer to something. And so, yeah, you can have a gambling game. You can do some gambling if you want in a casino where you just kind of shift money around in this Ponzi scheme manner. You can do that. That's perfectly legitimate. But that's not what a bank is. A bank is a money warehouse. That's what a bank means. That's what everybody knows what a bank means. That's what every fucking bank says what a bank means. Every bank.
Really. No bank actually says they're a money
bank means. No bank says that.
I've never seen a bank say they're a
Bank
money
of
warehouse.
Scotland PLC promises to pay. No bank says that, do they? No bank says that, do they?
No, I mean, for example,
your promise to pay is bearer on demand.
the Bank of England said 96% of the money
says that, do they?
said there's no money being stored. 96% of the money.
Sorry, no bank says that. No bank says that. This bank says that.
The Bank of England. I don't know which one it is.
This bank says that right there. I also have one from the Bank of England which says something much the same effect.
Yeah, the Bank of England says 96% of the money in circulation is not stored anywhere.
Oh, hold on. I've got one from the Bank of England right here. So, I promised to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £20. That's what the Bank of England says. That's what the Bank of England says. Bank of Scotland says that Bank of Scotland PLC promises to pay its bearer on demand £20 sterling at its registered office, Edinburgh. Two banks. Those are two banks. And they're both saying, exactly what I'm saying. That the bank is indeed holding all of your deposits. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, you just read like this symbolic piece of paper, which is obviously like treated with historical whatever it is. And then you claim it's like actually contractually liable. Really?
What do you think that means? I promise to pay the bearer on demand £20 sterling. What do you think that fucking means, man? Like, are you being crazy here?
It's a historical. It's like symbology. It's historical.
So I just want to make sure that everyone in the audience gets the opportunity to take in what you're saying, because I think that the words that you've put together here are like a gem that should be distributed widely. So you've got a piece of paper, and on this piece of paper, there's no indication in the slightest. There's nothing that says this is a joke. There's no asterisk that says just kidding. The only words that I see on the piece of paper say, Zulu, what's the verbatim? You're muted.
The verbatim is, apologies for that. Bank of Scotland PLC promises to pay the bearer on demand £20 sterling at its registered office, Edinburgh, 16th of August, 2021. That's what it says verbatim on this note.
And you're so if I'm understanding you correctly, Shrek Eyes, you're saying that this is just a joke, or it's there as like they're paying homage to history. They don't mean it.
Yeah, well, not only that, but across time, the central bank, which is the one that promises this, he kept changing what 25 pounds sterling means. Right? Eventually, it started meaning nothing. It started meaning a piece of paper.
So what does it mean to pay me £20 sterling?
So
They just give me,
it depends on
so
what
it
they mean.
means they just give me this note back. I give them this note and they give me it back.
Yeah, but you can't do that. Only the commercial bank can.
Actually, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that this is £20 sterling. It says explicitly the opposite of that.
Well, yeah, you're confronting a particular strangeness in history where across time the central banks are noticing that it doesn't really make sense to hold 25 pounds sterling, and so they just change the definition of what 25 pounds sterling means.
So you might say that they committed fraud against me because it very clearly says, I promise to pay the bearer on demand £20 sterling. It clearly says that. Right? What does £20 sterling mean? It means £20 of sterling silver. That's what it means. Like, come on, where do you think the word pound comes from?
So you're referring to two. Okay, you're referring to two types of money, right?
So here's an example for you.
Bank, and there's notes by bank. It's different, right?
Here's
and
two literate people.
Yeah, is an instance of fractional reserve banking. It's not.
Right. Okay. So I don't think that's the point he's making. But let me just ask you this: there's two people here. I think Zulu and I are both semi-literate. We're under the impression that we're supposed to own the money that's in the bank. We are attesting to the fact that every interaction we ever had with a bank throughout our entire lives has included the implication or the explicit recognition that we own what's in the bank. That's thrown out. We're either just lying or we've been lied to by malicious bank tellers that don't apply to the banking system, in your view. And we've also presented you with actual written documentation. Zulu has actual writing that says that he owns something. So all the testimony is out. All the writing is out. So can you show me where the bank says that when you go and you make a deposit that they take ownership of it? And that you get your money back at a specific time in the future?
You're making a broader claim about fractional reserve banking.
So you can't do that.
No, okay, you can admit the central bank is. I can concede that the central bank is fraudulent.
So you cannot do that.
I can concede the central bank is fraudulent. But
but when I ask you like a question, I'm like, hey, what's your take on this question? And you're like, here's a totally unrelated statement. No. What I'm asking you is, I've just given you all the evidence that we have for why we are justified in claiming ownership of the money we have in the bank. I gave you, we've given you personal testimony. We've given you written word. Hold on. We've given you all this. Hold on, relax. You're confusing. I think you're confusing yourself a little bit here, and I want to give you the best opportunity to answer the question that I can. Okay, so that's all of our evidence. So what we're saying is, okay, you're saying no. Actually, the bank is operating on a totally different paradigm. The bank is being honest with us, and the bank is telling us, hey, you give us this money, not yours anymore. We're going to do whatever you want with it, or whatever we want with it, and then if you come back in to get it, you recognize that we just might not be able to pay you, and that's cool. And that's the interaction you think the bank is having with everybody. Okay, fair enough. Can you please demonstrate to us a reason that we should accept that claim?
That's not what I'm claiming. I'm saying that's a hypothetical situation where fractional reserve banking, I almost said fraudulent reserve banking, is not fraudulent.
What do you think, Zulu? Like, I'm not capturing his version of banking.
Yeah, so he's speaking in some fantasy world where banking doesn't mean banking, and where people actually are saying something different to what the fractional reserve banks actually say. He's speaking in a fantasy, fundamentally.
No, it's not. I'm bringing in a concept of banking, which has existed for 400 years. And you're claiming it's fraudulent.
I think this is more than 400 years. It says
demand deposits.
Bank of
You've-
Scotland PLC promises to pay the bearer on demand £20 sterling at its registered office, Edinburgh. It
Okay,
says that on my
Central
note.
banking fiat is fraudulent. Okay, but that's not
Oh,
referring to the
that's,
commercial bank.
where do you think it comes from? It comes from fractional reserve banking. That's where it comes from.
Fiat comes from fractional reserve banking.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. There were.
How do you think it comes about then? How do you think fiat money comes about if not through fractional reserve banking?
In the
Like, what are you
US case,
talking about here?
in America's case, the central bank was doing fractional reserves, right? They weren't keeping all the dollars synchronized with the gold plus. So, but that's irrelevant to the actual case of fractional reserve banking in commercial banks.
Yeah, so for fraudulent reserve banking, what you have, if you have actual fractional reserve banking and not just pure fiat, where it's just lying to you, what you have is that there are multiple claims, multiple property titles for any given piece of gold in the vault. That's what you have. You can't have multiple property titles for a single property. That's fraud.
There are multiple claims, not multiple property titles.
So the bank owns the money.
Yes. You only
That's
have a
what
claim
1,000
to the
people
money.
Okay,
You don't.
so you missed something earlier, Shrek. I want to give you the chance to account for it in what you're saying now. And this is real. This is on track with what Zulu's saying as well. So it's not a diversion. We've already heard from you that it's not a demand deposit. So when you deposit your money in the bank, you are transferring your ownership to the bank. Okay, you've made that clear. But what I think you're confused about is that you're also saying that it is a time deposit. And it can't be a time deposit because if a time deposit means you are transferring ownership until a specific time. If you are transferring if a time deposit without the time aspect is not a transfer of ownership at all. So
Why not?
So
I can
you're
divorce it.
transferring the ownership for an indefinite amount of time. So
Yeah.
I wonder, how can you make sense of a contract that looks like this? I'm giving you ownership over my property, and there's no condition at all for me coming back into possession of it that I can.
No, there are conditions. It's just not functional to time. There's
Okay,
no,
share the.
I don't know
give
why
that
you're
to
bringing
us.
time to this.
You don't know why I'm bringing what to it?
Time. There's no reason to bring in time to this.
Right, because I explained earlier that there's two fundamental types of arrangements. There's time deposits and demand deposits. So share with us now the contract that we enter into when we deposit in the bank that's neither a demand deposit nor a time deposit.
Okay, so you give me $1 bill. You're saying you have a claim on this $1 bill under this contract.
No, stop. That's the problem right there. I'm giving you the $1 bill. You're saying that you've taken ownership of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I have a claim on the $1 that you now own. And what you mean when you say claim is that me and you are now in a contract.
Correct.
And when certain conditions are met, you have to pay me $1.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the conditions?
That I come over and want to take it, and I don't know if you have reserves in your, and if you want to, let's just put it at that.
Right. So the condition is I can take ownership. I can fulfill the contract if you have the money.
And if I want to give it to you, yeah.
Isn't that always the case with property? You have a claim on my property if I want to give it to you.
No, that's not always the case.
No, you can come to me and say, I want your water bottle. And I go, no, I don't want to give it to you. It's like, okay, well then it isn't fulfilled. Like that's the case for all property.
Yeah, but
what you're saying is that the bank legitimately entirely owns the money.
Okay, let's say there's this really cool guy, right? And you give $1 to him, and you say, you know what? If you want, give it to me later. But if you really want to keep it to yourself. Is this possible
for all property?
No, it's not the case for all property, unless you're like evolutionary
what
capitalist.
What could I not give to you if I wanted to give it to you? Like your body? Is that what you're saying? Like it's just fun? It's alienable? Is that all you're saying about money? Is that it's alienable?
What do you mean?
Okay, so you're saying that the condition for the bank is that they want to give you the money.
Yeah.
Right, that's the only condition they've got to meet.
Yeah,
Fundamentally.
theoretically, let's do
So
that.
the bank
Let's say that's
truly
the
owns all
condition.
your money.
Yeah.
So they could just say, no, we want to use all your money for the things we want to do, and you can't take any of it.
They could, but that ruined their profit because everyone else would see that and dude say, "What the fuck?
I mean,
dude?
they
I'm
can
not going
make
to
a
give you
lot
any
of
money."
profit with that.
We're not interested in what the incentives are for going into this contract or not. We're interested in the actual attributes of the contract.
Yeah, I'm giving you the attributes. Yeah, the bank can take all of it and say, "No, fuck you. I'm keeping it."
And you think that's what a bank means? A bank means I'm just giving you all my money and trusting that you will give it back to me in the future. You
Yeah,
think
that's exactly what a bank is. Yeah.
I think you're a crazy person.
Yeah, yeah. When you give money to a bank, you trust that it's going to give it back to you. Yeah, exactly.
You're conflating two very different things here. Okay, the fact that
I don't care
you
how you
don't
define
know.
banking too.
Hold
Okay,
on.
I'm defining my own banking. Okay.
I gotta mute you for a second here. The fact that we have uncertain access to the future and we have to make some sort of guess or expectation about whether or not a person that we're in a contract with is going to return our property to us is an entirely separate thing from whether or not that's an actual feature of the contract.
Well, I'm just giving you a hypothetical, right? Of a fractional reserve banking, which isn't fraudulent. I'm giving you an example.
Well, on the contrary, we're trying to explain that it is.
I just explained it to you how you can have a contract that says I'm going to give this back to you if I want to. Is that a possible contract?
That's not even a contract, though, is what I'm saying. Because
how is it not a contract? The clause is if I want to give it back to you.
Every single piece of property, right? Do you think there's a contract between everybody ever and all pieces of property that they own? Like, no.
No, I don't. I don't believe that. No.
Right. So that's not what a contract means. There is no contract between me and Galazar that he can take my water bottle if I
yeah,
want.
because you guys never declared it. Yeah.
If I want to give it to him. Right.
But it does no. What Zulu's saying to you is that you've designed the contract such that it's irrelevant if someone declares it. The conditions.
It's not irrelevant at all.
Nothing changes after the declaration of the contract. The situation of the conditions is already true.
Well, something changed. You basically said the bank
prior to the contract, it was already the case that the bank could give you the money if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And that's also the case after the contract.
Exactly.
So what changed?
Well, before it didn't have your money, right? It didn't take your money.
It still doesn't have your money because you think the bank owns the money.
Yeah, correct. Nothing changed.
Nothing changed. That's not where the change is. Where is the change?
No, something changed. We had an explicit contract where.
Which contract? A contract referring to what?
A contract referring to my ability to give you something that I want when you want it.
If you want to. So currently, Galazar and me have a contract over this water bottle because I could give it to him if I wanted to.
Yeah. Did you ever declare this contract? Did this ever happen?
Sorry, no, I didn't. But do I already have this contract with him?
No, you don't. I don't think so.
But I could. But it is currently the case that I could give this water bottle to him if he came over and visited me. And I go, yeah, take the water bottle.
It is the case. You don't have a contract though.
So that's the exact same case with the bank, in your view.
You're doing like what EvoCap does. Yeah,
I think
there is an incentive structure. There's an incentive structure for the bank to give something back.
Well, I have to say that we just hit the 3-hour mark, and as much as I'm enjoying this conversation on the fractional reserve banking, I think we're going to have to call it because it's a 1-hour show.
It's raining here really hard, and I'm sorry I couldn't debate very well and kept leaving. It was pretty not.
No, those circumstances are out of your control. There's no worries about that. We were happy to wait for you. You weren't gone very long. I think it'd be great if we pick this conversation up another time because it's an interesting one, and certainly we've narrowed in on a very specific domain of. I would say, from my point of view, we've got all the terms isolated that we need to work out now. Maybe we'll have the opportunity to do that. But for the time being, I think at the 3-hour mark, and we're kind of running in a circle, I think it's a good amicable time to call the show for today.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, if you want to do so quickly, why don't I give you the next 60 seconds to make the final statement before we go into the outro?
Okay, so when the history of fractional reserve banking. I'm just going to say one thing. Google endogenous model of money. There's no multiplier effect. Money is an IOU to itself, and the commercial banks give an IOU to this IOU of itself. Bye.
Man, it sounded like he was about to make like a really long outro or like a really long final statement, and then he just like he bait and switched me and he hit us with that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was good. I look forward to getting into it more. I'll be honest. I think that I have some more reading to do myself because I think that doing some more reading is going to give me the opportunity to communicate about this a little bit more clearly. It's always a good time to improve your semantics.